Pokemon, Kaiju, Dragon Ball, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello collectors, it is Steven here, and I am back with another SH Figuarts Ultraman review, and today we are going to be taking a look at one of Ultraman's enemies, or several of one of the enemies. Mwahaha. Today we are going to be taking a look at the SH Figuarts Alien Baltan Shadow Clone set. This is a P Bandai web exclusive, meaning that you are going to have to pay quite a hefty price to get this. Why? One limited run order window, and that has closed a long time ago. So thanks to the aftermarket, you're going to have to pay more than what you normally would have gotten this for at an established MSRP. But considering this is going to run you north of $150, is this 3-figure set of Baltan using a shadow imitation technique worth it? Well, I don't know. Let's take a look to see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. This review is March 2019. Patrons pick. That's right, my patrons over on Patreon helped to vote, and this was the review that was chosen. Yes, it is up a little late thanks to a couple of family issues and personal issues, but still, thanks to my patrons for voting on this figure to be reviewed. Now, if you're interested in voting in April 2019 Patrons Pick, which is actually going to be 1 year since the original first one went up, which was the Alien Queen, check out links in the description down below to take you on over to my Patreon. Anyway, let's get on with the review. So the whole gimmick here is that Baltan can do sort of like an after image technique or a cloning thing where it looks like he's moving around and showing up in a different spot, and it's just a dud. And that is what Bandai was able to really recreate here well. They were able to create 3 different phases of this cloning technique here, and what we have is a teal one, which is going to be right when the technique is started. We're going to have a deep blue one when Baltan is on the move, and then we're going to have one semi-formed Baltan here, which is going to be very close to when he comes back into reality and he's ready to kick Ultraman's hiney. Yep, because that worked for him so many times in the show. At any rate, the 3 figures here, they do look nice, and they do each offer something different. They don't bring the same thing to the table. They're not all just one consistent color. So with that in mind, we should take a closer look at them and maybe take a look at some of the quality control issues that they might have, because 2 out of 3 of them actually do have a couple of things wrong. So we're going to go ahead and start with the heads, and as you can clearly see, they all do look good here. The eyes are a nice gold coloration. They use some translucent plastic, so this way the somewhat compound eye effect is brought out well enough. Now do take note on the semi-formed Baltan, there is a scratch on the left eye, which I got it that way out of the box. Now, moving on down, we can see the different types of plastic and painting techniques that were used for these 3 figures. For the teal one, yes, they did use translucent plastic, just like the deep dark blue one. However, there was also transparent plastic here, which isn't quite the same. It holds some of the minimal paint applications a bit better than the translucent plastic, whereas the deeper blue one, that one appears to be nothing but translucent plastic in most areas of the figure. And then, of course, we do have the semi-formed one, which is going to be the nice hard plastic like we're used to, with hints of translucent plastic here or there, specifically the shin area on the right leg. But that being said, the only other quality control issue that I've really noted in terms of sculpt and paint is that the dark blue one, the one that's in the middle stage, it looks like it's got a couple of floaters here or there in the plastic. Yeah, not necessarily the greatest, but the difference between all 3 of them is really stunning, and it's not one of those things where even a casual Ultraman fan is going to kind of go, they look the same. It's not. It does look different, and as you saw in the opening action shot, it does really lend itself to the idea that Baltan can be in motion on your shelf. So all in all, even though they do represent sort of the same technique, just different stages of, they are all very unique, and quite frankly, I do think that people are going to pick their own favorites here. All right, articulation time, and since this is just a repaint, or technically a recast, of the original SH Figuarts Baltan, we are going to have identical points of articulation alongside with range. However, the quality of the joints definitely going to vary from figure to figure. Now, I picked the worst of the three just so I can showcase some of the issues which you might have, because I feel as if we have the bottom-most figure or the one that's worst off, that way we can set expectations low. That way, if you get a good one, which let's say the greener one, that tealish one, actually has better articulation in terms of quality control. If we set the bar low, if you get it, it's better for you. So what is the range of movement? What do we have? Well, we do have the head, which connects into the neck on a ball joint. So this way we can kind of twist and turn Baltan's head around a little bit, not too much, not like a standard Figuarts head, basically just rocking back and forth from side to side and twisting and turning. You're seeing the range of movement that we get there. Now for the shoulders, there is a ball joint that plugs into the body, so this way we can move it around just like this. You can hear it squeaking around. This one is super tight, whereas this one isn't necessarily as much. But that also allows you to raise and lower his arms, just like so. And there is also a hinge in there, which allows for movement as well. So this way we can move the arms in and out, up and down, forward and back, all that good stuff. Now, like I said before, that ball joint that plugs into the body here on this Baltan is really tight. It's very difficult to move. I'm going to have to apply some dish soap here, I believe. However, on the other ones that I have, that isn't an issue at all. We do have a bicep swivel, so we can spin the arms around just like so, as a usual bicep swivel might do. Nothing too fancy there. And then we have double hinged elbows. Now, the hinges here are working just fine. On the one that's sort of the fully formed alien Baltan, unfortunately, the elbow hinges are very tight, and they sort of feel like they're going to snap. For the claws, we do have hinges which allow them to open and close. Here, for this one, they are so loose that just on their own, they can just fall open unless you completely close them. So there's kind of no in between there, so that's kind of a bummer. For the torso, we do have an ab crunch and a waist joint all together here that we get a lot of movement out of. But the downside there is that the double ball jointed system that is in place here, or the crazy ball jointed system, requires this sleeve, which can cause some obstruction when you're moving him back into a neutral pose, and then you're going to have to force joints, and you don't want to break anything. So when you're moving Baltan around, twisting and turning him, all the fun stuff, just make sure you are going nice and easy in that midsection there, and you don't get everything super duper twisted like I did, to the point where you may accidentally break a joint if you are not too careful. Now, seeing as this came out, the original sculpt anyway, after the renewals for almost all of the Figuarts, we do have the 2.0 style hip joints, so we do have a swivel for forward and back and out to the side, alongside a thigh swivel here, so this way we can spin the legs around. For forward and backward movement, thankfully this little skirt area for Baltan is made of a pliable plastic, so that's nice, so we get decent movement out to the side, and back, well, nothing too amazing there. We do have a double knee hinge, which is great. We do have the ankles, which actually have a swivel where they connect in at the leg here, which is cool. We do have a hinge which allows the foot to move forward and back, and then of course another swivel to accommodate for an ankle rocker. However, do be careful, it can get caught on the sculpt and it may be difficult to move back into place. You're going to have to force it and play with it a little bit, so this way you can get it back so it is seated perfectly fine. So all in all, Baltan's articulation is good, but the actual quality control of the joints can range from super loose to super tight, and even then it's not going to be the same across all of the ones that you get. For an example, this here with the claws, this is the only one that does it for me. So just keep in mind, articulation quality control will vary wildly from Baltan to Baltan, but overall, the articulation is pretty solid. Now, at north of $150, you would assume that this set came with an accessory, right? No. Unfortunately, this set in and of itself is actually an accessory set for Baltan because this is a technique that Baltan uses in the show. But it's a 3-figure set. But each figure is approximately $50. But it doesn't come with anything else. Yep, there's no sort of effect part that Baltan can use in between the claws. There's no sort of extra spaceship that this set might come with. There's no support stand. There's no thing unique. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that it doesn't really come with anything. But, of course, there are effect parts and stands out there on the market that you can use to complement a display if you were to have all 4 of these, including the original Baltan release, on the shelf. And, you know, I got videos for that. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump on over to the size comparison now to round out this review. We're only going to have one of those shadow clones up on the table because, to be honest with you, they're all the same size. I mean, you know how big one is compared to the others because they're all the same sculpt. And as you can clearly see, it will blend in perfectly well with all of your 6-inch scale Ultraman figures already, or, anything else you might want. Mezco Kong, Goku, who knows? Fantasy matches are what these figures can be used for. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Yes, all 3 figures look great, and there are minimal quality control issues in terms of that, but when you get to the articulation, there are some wild differences between all 3 of the figures in the set. I was actually pretty surprised by that. No accessories is really disappointing, considering that 2 of the figures, well, I really have a hard time saying that they came out to $50 in terms of cost to make, even though the other one is very difficult to achieve in terms of paint application, so they could have thrown in another building, a beam effect, or something else, maybe a stand. Come on, Bandai, throw us a bone here. But at the end of the day, that is kind of what this set is. It is a novelty set for the die-hard Alien Baltan lovers who have the Ultra Act, the Figuarts, a couple of the vinyl Bandai figures. Yeah. That's what it's going to be. So overall, if you are a fan of Ultraman and you're only casually familiar, maybe you have 1 or 2 favorite Ultras, you only know some of the kaiju by name, and you don't know some of the lore, this is definitely going to be a hard pill to swallow at about $150, definitely more so north of that. But if you are that core audience that I just spoke of, then you're going to buy this and you are going to be really happy to have some more color on your shelf. If you're thinking about getting this, go into it knowing that this is meant to be a novelty set and not meant to be a core SH Figuarts Ultraman experience. If you're okay with that and you're okay with not getting all the bells and whistles that they maybe could have thrown in here, like maybe a flight stand for Baltan, that would have been nice, then hey, this is going to be one fun release. Well, collectors, that brings us to the end of the video today, and I just wanted to take a second to thank you so much for watching. Now, you've heard a lot from me. I'd like to hear a little bit from you. Drop in the comments down below whether or not you liked it, you hated it, or maybe you were somewhere in between. I also want to take an extra second here for a nice, humongous thank you to all the patrons for SDR over the last month who have really helped the channel grow into what it can be today. So to all of you, 2 big thumbs up, thank you very much. And now the end card should be popping up, which will give you a few clickable links, like maybe to subscribe or head on over to my Patreon, or some short URLs like to my social media or to my Teespring store. There's also a video I hand selected for you, so if you want to watch another STR video, I hand selected some good content for you to watch, so definitely check out that video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.